Which driver had the most expensive repair bills in 2022? In 2022, not a single F1 driver managed to finish every race. George Russell came closest with just one retirement, while at the other end, Valtteri Bottas and Fernando Alonso failed to finish 6 times. But neither Bottas nor Alonso are among the F1 drivers who suffered the most expensive accidents in 2022. The figures we're about to use are based on research conducted by a Reddit user who meticulously tracked the damage incurred by each car during every Grand Prix weekend. This involves every driver to have been involved in an accident at some point in the season, regardless of whether or not they were at fault. Costs for mechanical failures are not included, which is probably good news for Ferrari. Firstly, let's take a look back and see who scooped this dubious honour in recent years. In 2019, it was Alex Albon, who was involved in accidents that cost almost $5.5 million in his Toro Rosso. 2020 saw Romain Grosjean top the pile, which is perhaps unsurprising considering the severity of his horrifying crash in Bahrain, when his car split in two and burst into flames, with Grosjean unbelievably managing to walk away from the wreck. And in 2021, it was Mick Schumacher who had the most expensive repair bills, totaling $3.9 million. So on to 2022, and in 10th place we find Fernando Alonso, whose repair bills totaled $1.35 million. The Spaniard had a notably unfortunate race at Imola when Mick Schumacher spun into him, damaging his side pod and forcing him to retire. Alonso also found himself involved in incidents in Australia, Monaco, Austria and Austin, all of which added to his total damage. In 9th place, it's Yuki Tsunoda, who had damage totaling $1.4 million. Perhaps the Japanese driver's most clumsy accident came during the Canadian Grand Prix, when he rejoined the race after a pit stop, only to immediately slide straight off the track and into the wall, ending his afternoon's work. That crash alone cost AlphaTauri $375,000. At number 8, it's Lance Stroll, who was involved in accidents costing just over $2 million. One race in particular accounted for almost a quarter of this total cost. During the United States Grand Prix, Stroll failed to notice Alonso looking to overtake him, causing the Spaniard's car to strike the rear of Stroll's Aston Martin, causing significant damage. That lapse in concentration cost Aston Martin almost $700,000. In 7th place, it's Esteban Ocon, whose 2022 damage receipts totaled $2.2 million. The lion's share of this total resulted from a heavy crash at the Miami Grand Prix, when the Frenchman hit the wall during FP3 and was forced to sit out qualifying. That crash alone cost Alpine almost $1.5 million. In 6th place, it's Sebastian Vettel. In his farewell season of F1, the German incurred damage worth $2.3 million. After missing the season's first 2 races with COVID, Vettel got behind the wheel for the first time in 2022 at the Australian Grand Prix. But the German had a weekend to forget in Melbourne, as he crashed out of first FP3 and then the race itself, causing a repair bill of $750,000 for that weekend alone. Moving into the top 5, we find Lewis Hamilton, whose repair bills for the season totaled $2.7 million. The 7-time world champion suffered minor incidents in Spain, Monaco, Great Britain, Belgium and Singapore, but things went badly wrong for the Briton in Austria. Losing the rear of his car while on a push lap, Hamilton crashed heavily into the tyre barrier, forcing him out of qualifying and landing Mercedes with an invoice of $1.5 million. At number 4, it's Carlos Sainz, with total repairs costing $2.8 million. In 2021, the Spaniard completed the most laps of any driver, but in 2022, he completed the least, after no fewer than 4 Lap 1 retirements. The Spaniard incurred damage in 7 Grand Prix, most notably in Imola, where his early mishap cost Ferrari some $740,000. Into the top 3, and we find Zhou Guanyu. The only rookie on the 2022 grid had his most dramatic moment of the season at Silverstone, where he was tagged by George Russell and ended up skidding upside down at high speed towards a barrier, where his Alfa Romeo became wedged sideways against the catch fencing. Though the Chinese emerged unscathed, that accident cost his team $1.9 million, forming a significant chunk of his $2.9 million total claim form. At number 2 in the list is Nicholas Latifi. The Canadian incurred damage in 6 Grand Prix for a total bill of $3.4 million. Things notably went badly wrong for Latifi during the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, where he lost control of his car and ended up in the tyre barrier. Unluckily for the Canadian, the tight confines of the Jeddah circuit proved unforgiving and landed his Williams team with a significant repair bill. And so we come to number 1 on the list of drivers with the most expensive repair bills, and for the second year in a row, this dubious honour goes to Mick Schumacher, whose accidents during 2022 saw him run up a bill of almost $4 million. The German had 2 heavy accidents towards the start of the year. In Monaco, he hit the wall with such force during the race that his Haas split in 2, causing damage of $1.1 million. And in Saudi Arabia, Schumacher crashed so heavily during qualifying that he appeared dazed as he was helped from the wreck by the medical crew. Though he recovered, he was unable to race the following day. That incident alone cost his team $2 million, with team boss Günther Steiner publicly criticising the German for the frequency of his accidents. Meanwhile, at the other end of the scale, Valtteri Bottas and Max Verstappen were the only 2 drivers whose 2022 repairs totaled less than $500,000. If you like this video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And for all the latest F1 news, views and analysis, head straight to racingnews365.com.